Hello and welcome to an all-new season of Perspectives, the weekly edition. I'm Deacon Pedro. This year, 2015, we are between synods on the family. And as we prepare for the Ordinary Synod on the family, which will take place in October 2015, we will be at the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia in September 2015. And so we thought that we would dedicate some of this program to celebrating marriage and family. And so for the next couple of months, we're going to be speaking to various different couples, married couples, who will share their perspectives with us. And today joining me are Gerald and Marilyn Guest. Welcome. 57 years of marriage. Did you always think that you would be married, Marilyn?
Yes.
You knew right from you were a little girl, you knew you were going to be married.
I always thought I would like to be married.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you, Gerald?
Yeah, same thing.
Same thing. Was that, I've already said you've been married for 57 years. So I'm not dating you, but would that have been a normal thing at the time everybody got married?
Yes, more so than
Yeah.
now. Yes.
Yeah. How did you meet?
I got a job as a helper, a nurse actually, for a dentist
Okay.
in Northern Ontario. At that time, the Red Cross ran dental coaches to small communities where the children could not possibly have any dental care.
Right.
And he wasn't married. They normally were married, and he hired me for the summer. And it was that summer that I met Marilyn. And
So how old were you?
23. No,
No.
21.
And were you already in medical school?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Citizen for
And
sure.
what were you? So were you
I
in Northern
was
Ontario?
in nursing. I was in nursing at Toronto Western.
Okay.
And at that time, the third-year nurses were called nursing interns, and they were sent to the Red Cross hospitals that they had in different places where they
Communities.
couldn't afford to have a big hospital.
Okay.
And so this small hospital had 13 beds, including all the bassinets. And the student nurses, third-year student nurses, were sent up there for 1 month. We were put on nights and evenings because, of course, nobody
Yes.
else wanted that.
Yeah.
So it was very, it was good training. It was a very good training.
And this was summer. It was a summer.
July.
July.
So the summer of love.
Well, yeah, that wasn't intentional. We went up. We went up to. I thought it was way out in the boonies.
Where was it?
Thessalon.
Oh, do you need to tell me? In Ontario, Northern Ontario.
Between Sudbury and Sault Ste. Marie.
Okay. And that's not that far. But yeah, I guess in those days.
In those days, it
In
was the
those
boonies.
It was pretty well the boonies. Yes.
Pretty well the boonies.
Yeah.
So you met, a relationship started, presumably. You kept in touch. You were both from Toronto, from the Toronto area.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Marilyn, and she mentioned she was a nurse at Toronto Western. And when we got back, I invited her to a fraternity party.
Uh-oh.
And she said she couldn't go because she had to go home that weekend. But the trouble was that she had to pass the fraternity house to go home, but she couldn't go. So, but anyway, eventually we did get her to come to the fraternity, and when we walked in the door, I introduced her to my best friend and told him that this was the Indian girl that I had met in Thessalon. Because I had written to him and told him I was dating an Indian girl.
Right.
Well, Marilyn was born in India, and that's the reason why.
Oh.
And anyway, he said, "Hi, Marilyn."
He went to school with. We
Oh,
had known
you
each. I
knew
knew
each
him
other.
before I met Gerald.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
funny.
So it's a small
So he
world.
was her best man
So he was
when
our
we got
best
married
Right.
in 1957.
So how long after you met each other, how long was the dating or courtship before you got married?
2 years.
2 years.
2.5.
2.5
Something like
years.
that.
And you were both, well, you
we
were in
got
school.
married
Yeah.
on Holy Innocents' Day
December
because
the 28th, in case
28th
you'd
because it
forgotten.
was the end of the
Okay,
End
tell
of
me
the-
something. Was that my parents were married on December 26th? Was that a normal thing at the time, December weddings?
Well, it certainly was
No.
if you're in university because you have
Because you were,
Holidays.
you would have had, of course, of course. So 2 years courtship.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
Well, it's 2.5
two
years.
and a half
actually.
years, yeah.
And would that at the time would have been again something normal? That was a normal sort of dating?
Pretty well, yeah.
period.
Most of our friends were the same
I
sort
think
of
we weren't different than any of our friends.
And was it a matter of waiting until you were done school before you get married, or you just
Our
got
parents would have liked it that way,
My
Oh, so
mother
you-
but
thought-
he was still at
My
school.
mother thought that I was insane.
Because you were getting married before you were done medical school?
Yes.
Why would she have thought that was a problem?
Because we didn't have any money.
Other than that. Okay, so did you have any money?
No.
No.
Was it a problem?
Well, I was working.
Yeah,
Right.
I was
Marilyn
working.
was working.
so, yeah.
Yes.
No, it wasn't a problem.
Nope.
Every summer, at the end of the school year, for 2 years, we gave up the apartment, and wherever his summer job was,
Right.
we went to where his summer job was. Or if it was out of
Okay.
Toronto, I was nursing, so I had to stay in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
But wherever he got the job, then we moved home one summer to my place, and one summer he went up to Kapuskasing. So
Mm-hmm.
the first summer he went up to Kapuskasing.
But after we had been married for, what,
6 months.
4 months.
6
4
months, yeah.
that was terrible.
Because you were apart.
Yes, yeah, it was
Really?
horrible. I thought it was horrible. I wrote a letter to Marilyn every day, and it was just awful. But it was one of the most exciting experiences I ever had, because I
He
worked in
hated
the
every
bush.
moment of it, but he's still talking about it.
Interesting. So was that the only time that you were apart after you got married?
Yes.
But yes, actually it was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you found it very difficult.
Well, I found it difficult, yes.
So
yeah,
I should ask
yes.
Marilyn if she found it difficult.
Yes, you should.
Did you find it difficult, Marilyn?
Not as difficult as he did. No, I didn't find it as difficult. But I did go up. I got my holidays, and then we
Right.
went up. And it was difficult for him because he was going up north, and he's not a country type. He's a city
Right.
person. He's not physically inclined, basically. And he was up in the woods,
I knew
and
no one,
he knew no one. And
except
he was-
the chap I happened to be working with, who was
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn's godfather,
Okay.
who was a physician in Kapuskasing and had a contract with Spruce Falls Power and Paper. And he needed someone to go to the lumber camps, which he was supposed to do under contract once a month,
Right.
but it took ages to get to them.
Uh-huh.
Whereas in the winter, he could drive,
Yeah. Of
and
course.
they drove on ice roads.
Of course.
And so he hired someone in the summer, and I got the job.
Mm-hmm. Well, you needed a job. Now, you have 4 children. How soon after you got married was your first son born?
3 years, 2 years.
4 years.
Was it 4 years? Okay. it was
Something.
4
Well, we
years.
got
I would
married in
say-
57, right? And he was born in
Yeah,
61.
61.
We, got
yeah.
we were married on December the 28th. He was born the 13th of January, 4 years later.
4 years later.
And he
that's
was born in England.
in England, because
Yeah.
you were in England for a
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, he got the job to go to England. Well, no, he didn't have a job when we went
I
to
had a
England.
job, but when I got there, the interviewer at the hospital was called the Red Cross Memorial Hospital
Right.
in Taplow, which is in Buckinghamshire, which is west of London.
Uh-huh.
And I got the job, and they said, yes, well, go ahead and enjoy yourself in Europe. So we did. And enjoyed
Spent all our
ourselves.
money for a month.
Uh-oh.
Spent all our money, came back.
Bought a
and
car.
Phoned, yes, and bought a car.
We bought a car.
And I came back, and they phoned them, and I said I was ready to start work. And they said, oh, sorry, the job came up. We had to get someone else. You don't have one.
Really?
So I didn't have a job. And
So you
here
have
we
no
were.
money, you've gone off to England,
We had a Mercedes sitting in the driveway. We
And I
couldn't
was
put any
pregnant.
petrol in it,
and you were already pregnant.
and she was pregnant.
It was a bit of a
it was mad.
disaster.
So I finally got a job in geriatrics, and never had heard of geriatrics. It was not a word that was ever used in medical school, at least at that time.
Uh-huh.
And the first geriatrician in Canada was a fellow whose name was Rory Fisher.
Uh-huh.
And he was the first one, and he came after I had returned about 6 years later. And I always said to him that if I finished my training, I would have been the first one, but I never did. So.
Interesting. Now, so then you came back to Canada, and then you had your 2 other children. And what was it? So you were working, you were a doctor, you were at home.
I was at home.
Was
yeah,
that would that have been a normal thing as
very
well
normal.
for women?
Yeah, yeah.
A given. You didn't
Not
even
a
question
lot
the
of
fact.
women went to work at the same
No.
when they had a family. No.
Did you think that you would go back to work, or did you think you'd stay at home?
No. I don't know that I really thought about it. I was busy with 3 children.
I'm sure.
And
3 children in 3 years.
Yeah.
and I didn't think I'd go back to work. Now, after Mary was born, I thought about it for a while, and
Mary's the 3rd one.
Mary's the 3rd one, and at the point where I was thinking of going back, which was after about 10 years after, we moved out to the country. All that time we moved,
Right.
and
Outside of Toronto.
outside of Toronto, and so it was a little more difficult because I was basically taxi driver for the kids
Right.
at that point.
Yes.
And then I decided I would go back to work, and then I after 13 years I got pregnant with our last child, so that's the 4 kids.
Okay, good. We're going to take a little break. I want to learn more about what you were thinking about marriage and those early days of family. When we come back, we're speaking with Gerald and Marilyn Guest. They're giving us their perspectives on marriage and family. Don't go anywhere. Short break. We'll be back soon. Welcome back to Perspectives on Marriage and Family. Our guests today are Gerald and Marilyn Guest, married 57 years, 4 children. Tell me a little bit about what your faith life was at home in those early years of marriage, Marilyn.
A little bit complicated.
Yes.
Because we were converts, both of us.
From
Anglican.
From Anglicanism.
And our children were young when we converted. We were married in the Anglican Church and then became Roman Catholic. I guess our oldest child was 7.
Okay, so
I guess Gregory
old
was
enough to
6,
understand.
7. Yes.
First
yeah.
communion age. Interesting. Now, of the 2 of you, who, I don't know if this is fair to put it this way, but who led the way?
Gerald did.
Gerald. What?
He read himself into Catholicism.
Ah.
That's my
Well.
feeling.
And did you, during the time when you were reading, considering, discerning maybe, joining the Catholic Church, did that create any issues with Marilyn?
Not that I was aware of.
No. Did you know that he was considering?
Oh yes, I knew. Yes, I knew. I felt that if we converted, if he became a Roman Catholic, that I would become a Roman Catholic.
Oh, so that was a given.
Yes.
Why?
Because I felt that mixed marriages, just in my experience, didn't work quite as well.
Okay.
And I thought, this is not right. I was still an Anglican after I became a Roman Catholic for a few years.
An Anglican at heart. Now, would you have thought, Gerald, that would have been a problem had you converted and she no?
Oh.
Had she not converted?
I don't. We just talked about it, and we decided that.
We did talk about it, yeah, but it didn't. It wasn't a big problem.
No.
I hope that I wasn't pushing.
No.
But quite frankly, I don't remember.
Yeah, interesting. But clearly faith was important to both of you, and how was that with the children? They wouldn't have been going to Catholic school when they were little, I guess, because you weren't Catholic.
No, they weren't going to school.
They were just going to public school.
They went to a public school.
Gregory went to a public school for, I guess,
And it
2
was
years.
when he would have gone to a junior high school.
Okay.
There was we lived in Don Mills, and the junior high school was on Don Mills Road between Shepherd and Finch. And one of the teachers there was a patient of mine, and I had told him we had this idea of buying property in Whitchurch, Stouffville, and building a house on it sometime. And his suggestion was, build your house now, move, don't let your child go to Woodbine Junior High. It's full of drugs.
Interesting. So you ended up, that's when you moved to the country.
That's when we moved out to the country, yes.
When you moved out to the country.
Yeah, and then they went to Catholic schools from then on.
From then on. Now, before you got married, you said that you always thought you'd be married, that was a given. What ideas did you have about marriage growing up? Is that something that was talked about in school or at home? Did anybody teach you the truth and beauty of marriage? It was just a given?
For me?
Yes.
It was mostly from my parents, I think. I was born in India, and I grew up until I was 11. My father was a doctor in the British Army, and we moved every 6 months or so. So family was very important.
Yeah.
And my childhood was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So it's something that you wanted
So
for yourself.
I felt, yes.
Yeah, and good models. And
I think that was why I felt that way.
And how about you, Gerald, growing up, your ideas of marriage, or what model did you have for marriage and family?
Well, my parents, obviously, and my mother's family was a very close-knit family. And I spent most of my holiday time with my cousins who lived in the country.
Right.
And they also were a very close-knit family. And still are. We have a Christmas party once a year. There are usually 40 or 50 people at it, all the way from first cousins once removed, second cousins once removed, and third cousins. And and they're all still together.
Yeah.
There was
great.
And all my experience of family, there were only 2 broken marriages.
Right. So for you, marriage was forever.
Forever.
Yes.
It was never a
It was
question.
never.
And that's what you saw around you.
Yes, basically.
Basically,
Yes.
up until the last few years.
Now, would you say today, after being married 57 years, I mean, clearly your ideas are still that marriage is forever. Has any other ideas of the importance of family or marriage maybe been clarified, that you would put it differently into words today? Like if you had to give advice to someone who is a young couple that is considering marriage, your children, your grandchildren, what would you tell them?
I think what I would tell them is that you give more than half.
Yeah.
And your spouse gives more than half. So in other words, you admit that you aren't perfect.
Right. So and sometimes you give more than 51%. Sometimes you have to give 100% because your spouse is not able to. So it's a compromise, but it's not a real compromise. Because some people would say that marriage, that it's not a compromise, that it's 100% always.
On one side.
Or on both sides.
Both sides.
Yes, but I think, well, if you look at it that way,
Yes.
then I would have to say that it's 101%
Yes, of
on
course.
both sides.
Yes.
Right? Whichever way you want phrase it, I suppose.
Yeah, of course.
I think so. Young people today, in some cases, it has to be. They go in. They have so many. It has to be this way, or I have to be that. They go into it. We didn't go in. I don't know. I didn't go into
expectations,
marriage.
you mean?
Yeah, expectations, or am I suited to him? Am I not suited? Why this? Why that? I think in our day, you fell in love, there was a spark, and you figured, okay, this is right for us, and you got married.
Do you feel that, I have a priest friend of mine always says that people who are called to marriage, they're not called to marriage in general, but they're called to marry one specific person. Do you feel that way? Or did you feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
That he was the one and that's your
Well, I certainly did.
Yeah, and you still do.
Oh, well,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that was the start of it. There has to be a spark, otherwise,
course.
that, you know, I think nowadays that some of the young people, they have trouble meeting the person that they want, so they do have a
Like online dating.
online
that kind of thing.
dating, and sometimes it works. I'm sure it
Yes.
does, you know. And arranged marriages can work out
yes.
too. But both parties have to have the feeling that it's for life.
So you have to have the attitude that it's for life. You have to give 101%, let's say. Is that what you say would have carried you through the little moments of difficulty or miscommunication that, because I'm sure you had those moments?
That and your faith, yeah.
And your faith. But faith being more than just believing that a marriage is forever.
Yes.
So to what extent did you pray together as a couple and as a family?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did. Yeah, we did.
I have a take on what's happening in our society today, and that is that people aren't willing to make a commitment, and they're not willing to make the commitment that this is forever. If it works out, it's fine. If it doesn't work out, I'll change partners.
Yes.
And it's the same with everything. I was shocked to find out that the attitude in business is that, well, if I can get a better job, I have no commitment to my company that I work for. I do a good job, and I have to do a good job because I wanted to be promoted, but I have no commitment. Somebody comes along and offers me something better, I'll take it. That's totally different than I think in my parents, and sometimes even in our generation, that's true. But now that it isn't, so that's why we don't have, it seems to me, we don't have vocations to the priesthood,
Right.
to the religious life, to the ministry. People aren't willing to make the commitment.
And to people getting married,
And
to live
young
together.
people
and
Right,
don't
but
get
they
married.
can't make that commitment.
That's right.
Total commitment.
That
no.
total commitment.
And that's why they live together.
Yeah. So marriage is a total commitment. The totality of marriage, you would say, is important.
For better or
Yes.
for worse. And I feel
That
sorry
for rich and
the
for
worse.
poor, in
Yeah.
sickness and in health, until death do us part. That's what the Anglican marriage vow is.
It's still in the Catholic
Yeah.
ritual as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a good place to end. It's good advice. Marriage is forever. It's 101% or 51%, depending on how you want to see that, and commitment, a big total commitment. Thank you so much.
And patience and fortitude.
And patience and fortitude. Anything else?
No, I think that's good.
Thank you very much for. It's a great witness to have. I mean, marriages that last for so long, 57 years, not just to your family, but to us, to our viewers. Thank you for sharing your story with us today.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
We've been speaking with Gerald and Marilyn Guest. They've been married 57 years, and they've been sharing with us their perspective on marriage and family. And now it's time to hear from you. Tell us your marriage and family story. Write to us. And also, what advice would you give to a young couple that is considering marriage? You can reach us through Facebook, facebook.com/saltandlighttv, or through Twitter @saltandlighttv. That's all for tonight. I'm Deacon Pedro. May God continue to bless you and your home.